2,000 years ago, an empire stretched across 3 continents, connected by roads so well built that some of them are still in use today. The Romans didn't have electricity, computers, or modern machinery. What they had was engineering, and a level of practical skill so refined that in some areas, we are only now catching up. Some of the things they built and made have baffled scientists for centuries, not because they involve magic, but because the Romans figured out solutions that we lost, forgot, or are still struggling to reproduce. Today, we're looking at Roman technologies that still leave modern engineers and scientists genuinely impressed, and in some cases, stumped. Let's start with the big one. Number 1, Roman concrete. If you go to Rome today, you can walk into the Pantheon, a temple completed around 128 AD under the Emperor Hadrian. It still has the largest unreinforced concrete dome in the world, nearly 2,000 years after it was poured. Not one of the largest, the largest. That record has stood for almost 2 millennia. Meanwhile, the concrete we use to build highways, bridges, and parking garages today often starts crumbling within decades. We spend enormous amounts of money every year repairing modern concrete infrastructure. So how did the Romans make a material that not only lasted this long, but in some cases got stronger over time? For a long time, this was a real mystery. The basic ingredients were known from ancient texts: volcanic ash, lime, and water, and for maritime structures, seawater. Roman harbor walls that have been pounded by the sea for 2,000 years are still standing, while modern concrete exposed to seawater tends to fall apart. The volcanic ash was a big part of it. When mixed with lime and seawater, it helped form durable mineral structures inside the concrete over time. But that wasn't the whole story. In 2023, a team of researchers led by MIT professor Admir Masic, working with colleagues at Harvard and laboratories in Italy and Switzerland, published a study that pointed to something surprising. Roman concrete contains small white chunks called lime clasts, which had previously been dismissed as evidence of sloppy mixing or poor quality materials. Masic never bought that explanation. As he put it, why would a civilization that obsessed over perfecting its recipes be so careless about mixing? It turns out those lime clasts weren't flaws at all. The researchers concluded that the clasts give the concrete a previously unrecognized self-healing capability. Here's how it seems to work. The Romans appear to have used a technique called hot mixing, combining the ingredients with quicklime at high temperatures, which left these reactive lime clasts distributed through the material. When tiny cracks form and travel through the concrete, they tend to pass through these lime clasts, and when water reaches them, the material recrystallizes as calcium carbonate and fills the crack almost like glue. In other words, the concrete repairs itself. Water, which destroys modern concrete, actually triggers the healing process in the Roman version. Scientists are now trying to reverse engineer this for modern use, but reproducing it reliably at industrial scale has proven difficult. For now, the Pantheon just sits there in Rome, quietly outlasting everything we've built in the last 100 years. Number 2, Roman roads. The Romans built an estimated 250,000 miles of roads across their empire, with around 50,000 miles of those being paved stone highways. And these weren't just paths scratched into the dirt. A proper Roman road was engineered in layers. They would dig a trench, lay down a foundation of large stones, then add layers of gravel, sand, and crushed material, often topped with tightly fitted paving stones. The road was built with a slight curve, higher in the middle than at the edges, so that rainwater would run off to drainage ditches on either side, instead of pooling and eroding the surface. That principle, called cambering, is still used in road construction today. What's remarkable is the durability. Some Roman roads have survived for 2,000 years and are still walkable. The famous Appian Way, begun in 312 BC, still exists in sections you can visit. The Romans built these roads to move armies quickly, but they ended up creating a transportation network so solid that many modern European roads follow the exact same routes the Romans laid out, sometimes built directly on top of the old foundations. The saying, "all roads lead to Rome," wasn't just a metaphor. The roads radiated out from a central point in the city, and distances across the empire were measured from there. Number 3, Roman aqueducts. Rome needed water, a lot of it, for its fountains, public baths, private homes, and sewers. To get it, Roman engineers built aqueducts that carried water from distant springs and rivers, sometimes from dozens of miles away, into the heart of the city. And they did this using nothing but gravity. There were no pumps. The entire system relied on a precisely calculated gentle downward slope, maintained across enormous distances, so that water flowed steadily from the source all the way to the city. Think about what that requires. Over the course of many miles, crossing valleys, hills, and uneven terrain, the engineers had to maintain a consistent, very slight decline. Too steep, and the water would rush too fast and damage the channels. Too flat, and it would stop flowing or stagnate. To keep the water moving across valleys, they built those iconic arched bridges, some of which still stand today, like the Pont du Gard in southern France, a 3-tiered aqueduct bridge that has survived for around 2,000 years. Where they couldn't build up, they tunneled through hills, sometimes digging from both ends and meeting in the middle with impressive accuracy given their tools. At its height, the city of Rome was supplied by a network of aqueducts delivering an immense volume of fresh water every day, a level of urban water supply that many cities wouldn't match, again until the modern era. Number 4, Roman central heating, the hypocaust. Long before radiators and central heating, wealthy Romans and public bathhouses used a system called the hypocaust to heat their buildings from the floor up. The idea was elegant. The floor of a room was raised up on a series of small pillars, usually made of stacked tiles or brick, creating an empty space underneath. A furnace, tended by slaves or workers, produced hot air and smoke, which was channeled into that empty space beneath the floor. The heat would rise through the floor and, in many designs, travel up through hollow spaces or clay pipes built into the walls, warming the entire room evenly and venting the smoke out the top. This is essentially an ancient form of central heating and radiant floor heating, concepts we still use today. It allowed the Romans to keep their famous bath complexes comfortably warm, including the hot rooms where bathers would sweat and relax. Building and running a hypocaust was expensive and labor-intensive, requiring a constant supply of fuel and someone to keep the fire going. So it was mostly a feature of wealthy homes and public buildings. But the engineering behind it, using an underfloor cavity to distribute heat throughout a structure, was genuinely sophisticated. And when the Roman world declined, this kind of comfortable indoor heating largely disappeared from much of Europe for centuries. Now, for the supporting cast. These are a bit shorter, but no less impressive. Roman surgical instruments. Archaeologists have recovered sets of Roman medical tools, including scalpels, forceps, hooks, probes, and specialized instruments for specific procedures, some of which look strikingly similar to tools used today. Roman military doctors, in particular, developed real practical expertise treating wounds, and Roman medical writers recorded procedures and instruments in detail. While their understanding of disease was limited by the knowledge of the time, the craftsmanship and design of their instruments reflected a serious, hands-on approach to surgery. Roman glass blowing. Sometime in the 1st century BC, glass makers in the Roman world, likely in the region around Syria, developed the technique of glass blowing, using a hollow tube to inflate molten glass into shapes. This was a revolution. It made glass vessels far faster and cheaper to produce, and glass went from a luxury item to something used in ordinary Roman households. the Romans became remarkably skilled at it, producing everything from simple cups to intricate colored and layered glassware. Some Roman glass pieces show a level of artistry and technical control that impresses glass makers even now. Roman ships and harbor engineering. To feed and supply a vast empire, the Romans built large merchant ships and engineered major artificial harbors. One of the most impressive was Portus, the great harbor complex near Rome, built to handle the enormous flow of grain and goods coming into the capital. Building large harbor structures out into the sea required pouring concrete underwater, and this is exactly where that special volcanic ash concrete came into play, hardening in contact with seawater rather than being destroyed by it. The scale of Roman maritime infrastructure, breakwaters, docks, warehouses, and lighthouses was something the world wouldn't consistently see again for a very long time. And finally, the Roman calendar. The way we organize our year today traces directly back to Rome. Under Julius Caesar, with the help of astronomers, the Romans reformed their messy older calendar into the Julian calendar in 45 BC, which established a year of 365 days with a leap day added every 4 years to stay aligned with the sun. This system was so effective that it remained in use across much of the world for over 1,500 years, and our modern Gregorian calendar is essentially a refined version of it, tweaked slightly to keep it in sync over even longer periods. So there you have it. Roman technologies that our ancestors developed 2,000 years ago that we either lost for centuries, are still reverse engineering, or continue to rely on without realizing it. Their concrete self-heals in a way we're only now beginning to understand. Their roads still guide the paths of modern highways. Their aqueducts moved water across mountains using nothing but gravity and precision. And their calendar still governs the days of your week. It makes you wonder how much practical knowledge slipped away when the empire fell. So much of what the Romans figured out through centuries of trial and error had to be painstakingly rediscovered later, sometimes more than 1,000 years later. Their engineers weren't working with mysterious lost powers. They were working with careful observation, hard-won experience, and an almost stubborn insistence on building things to last. And maybe that's the most impressive part of all. Not that they did something we can't understand, but that they did so much, so well, with so little, that some of it is still standing over our heads, still carrying our water, and still shaping the roads beneath our feet.